Hi, this is Scott Ware, the publisher and editor of Radiance Magazine, which can be found at radiancemagazine.org and 660 high vibe conscious locations in Southern California. And I have with me today a special guest, David Wolfe, who you know the name, but you may not know all the things that he is. He's a nutritionist, he's an organic farmer, a certified biodynamic farmer, and an adventurer. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And great magazine that you've got going. I didn't mention this to you when we spoke before, but I'm originally from Southern California. So I do know all of those spots and all those surf breaks too. Like I think I surfed every break from Ensenada all the way to Jalama in Point Concepcion area of California. So grew up in Southern California and went to school in Santa Barbara.
Okay. Now, did you notice that a lot of the places you would visit or the spiritual centers were sort of along the coast, more or less? Did you notice that?
Yeah, I'd say that's a general pattern. It's not always true, but yeah, like all the way from Swamis, we used to call it, that break down there at Yogananda's spot.
Oh yeah.
There's many cool spots actually in Encinitas there, and all the way up the coast and down the coast, all the way even today. Some of the best organic food is being served up in La Jolla, California.
And I used to think when I first came into the industry, I thought it was just all up and down the coast, maybe something about the ocean or being close to the water had a more metaphysical, spiritual vibe. But I've now found it's in the Inland Empire as well, in Riverside, in Claremont, Pasadena. You know, it's growing, but probably more so in California maybe than other states.
California's always been a leader in this area, and I love California. I'm not real happy with the government of California, but there's elements. Great things about there's elements that you gotta love. That's just so great about California, and just like any other place, there's elements that are less than excellent.
Exactly.
We'll focus on the excellent stuff because there's a lot of it, and we could go on that stuff for hours and days.
Totally.
There's so many great things.
Well, we were talking before about so you're the health guy. You're the alternative natural health guy. When I say alternative, it's because you're talking about things the mainstream doesn't want to talk about. In fact, they've kind of put the kibosh on you a little bit, forcing you to sort of go behind a what do they call it, a paywall?
Let's get back to what actually happened. I got so big on Facebook that YouTube saw me coming and they just deleted my page for no reason. 10 years of work. I was basically going to turn on YouTube and come in there full force like I'd done on Facebook, and they just deleted my page. And yeah, there's no chance to fix that actually, unless I wanted to bring some like legal action against them, which I don't because it's not worth it.
So all that
work, no warnings and no strikes, just so everyone knows that, because you hear that they have this community guidelines and stuff. And basically what I did is somebody inside YouTube, some technocrat, was looking to see anything that they could get me for. And basically I did a video like this about CBD. I wasn't making any claims about it. I was just reporting about it. And it's nothing you couldn't find on Wikipedia. I do mention it as Wikipedia, by the way.
That's good.
Try changing something there. Anyway, what ended up happening is they just deleted my entire page from one post I did on one video on CBD, not even making any claims, not anything like that. And that's just what we're up against. That's what we're dealing with.
Well, in the past especially, but CBD has gained more acceptance. Cannabis has. Hemp was a word back in the day you couldn't even whisper.
It's interesting because like in the real world out here, I'm in Seattle right now. There's no problem with CBD. There's no problem with THC. There's no problem with any of that stuff. But for whatever reason, when YouTube deleted me, that was about 2 years ago. There was no rhyme or reason for any of that. It's because it's not an illegal thing. Everyone's been eating hemp seeds and hemp oil for years. So just to point that out, that can happen to anybody. And so my recommendation is to everyone who's in the alternative health movement is I restart a new YouTube page and just do a little bit of work there, but I always have it backed up and put it on many, many different platforms, which I recommend, because you can't Google and YouTube are not your friend. Neither are these other platforms. It's really unfortunate, but they are not friendly to natural health. They're very friendly with the pharmaceutical industry as of recently.
Right. Well, and what we're doing and what you're doing is, it used to be called underground, but I'd say it's above ground. I'd say it's a grassroots thing now. It's spreading. More people are getting acquainted with the alternative health movement and it's just not being televised, but it's out there. People are talking about it. There's multi-level marketing, there's essential oils, and you seem to be at the forefront of that. You're going to be at the Conscious Life Expo in February 2020 talking about it. What is your message to people who are stepping into that or are afraid or because of the old storylines about what you should be doing and going to see the guy in the white coat for everything or the woman in the white coat? What is your message to them?
Well, my message is that we cannot rely on our governing bodies nor institutions, unfortunately, but we can't rely on them to protect us. So we have to protect ourselves. And one of my favorite sayings in this area is, you either get a filter or you're going to become a filter. Meaning that you've got to in some way pre-establish a filtration mechanism in front of you. Let's say, for example, you don't eat anything that's not organic, or you don't eat anything that's not plant-based, or you don't drink water that comes out of a tap, or just some kind of a filter that is between you and what's presented to us by the systems that we're in. And that's my first step, is like just realizing, hey, like, we are toxic. We have no idea how toxic we are because we're breathing in automobile exhaust, very toxic, carcinogenic stuff daily. Yep. Right? So, just on a simple level, the number one thing I recommend for people is gear up and get ready to detoxify your body. And that the beginning of that might be plant-based diet. The beginning of that might be going organic. The beginning of that might be drinking more water. The beginning of that might be taking activated charcoal, which I'm a big fan of, and we can get into that. Sure. And then gradually move yourself forward to, at some point, doing a detox, which I like to lead those twice a year online, which is great because then we get people from all around the world. But in your own area, in your own community, just figure out that time when you're going to get that week or 2 weeks to really get some deep cleaning happening, get those 10 or even more stubborn, unwanted pounds off your body.
Sure. And is it?
Yeah, start smiling again.
There you go. Do you also involve a practice of just inner looking at yourself, just taking your measure and finding out what's working or not working for you? I mean, because all that information's out there, and they can go to your website, davidwolfe.com with an E.
Thank you.
Sure, but it's and that's all external information. But how much do you recommend or recommend people internalize that and just really check in to see what's best for them?
Daily.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Daily.
Right.
We should always be checking in with every meal that we have and really looking inside and going, did that feel good? Did that make me feel better? Do I feel bloated after that meal? What was the result of that food, that quality of food?
So sometimes it can be overwhelming reading all the articles and it can be overwhelming. What's the latest superfood? Which I know nobody ever asked you that question. What's the hottest superfood? You said they always ask you.
Pretty much every day.
Every day.
Question.
Let's go for it. What's the latest? Because you read kale,
the
blueberries.
the hottest thing in the superfood business right now is sea buckthorn, without question. Sea buckthorn is this is such an interesting thing. Like, okay, the Vikings we know now came to the New World, and we know that story. But why didn't they get scurvy? Why did the British soldiers and the British Navy get scurvy, but not the Vikings that preceded them?
Well, they always said citrus, right?
The Vikings didn't have citrus.
Right.
That was something that the British got. That's why they got called limeys, because the lime, which had the vitamin C. Scurvy is a vitamin C deficiency disease. And the answer is a very interesting answer. The answer is sea buckthorn berries. Sea buckthorn berries are 5 times the vitamin C, at least, of an orange. We call them the oranges of the north, and they grow all along the coast of northern Europe. They were taken by the Vikings to Iceland and very likely to the New World, and they're all the rage right now, all across northern Canada, all across Canada in general, and all across the world of cosmetics and body care. Ooh, it's something else. The sea buckthorn oil is the hottest cosmetic oil right now in our field, and like, people are conscious, care about what they put on their skin.
Okay, so it's an antioxidant and just does more than provide vitamin C, I assume.
Yeah, it has the omega-6, the omega-3, the omega-7, and the omega-9. So 3, 6, 7, and 9. I don't think there is any other oil that has all those. So it has that omega-7, which is very unusual. The palmitoleic acid, the beauty oil. And that's something that also affects you internally, too. When you take it on the inside as well, these oils have a very strong effect on skin beauty, on radiance and shine, getting that inner glow happening. So that's been the real rage lately, has been sea buckthorn.
Well, it shows on you.
Well, I'm a little bit beat up after yesterday's 14-hour drive through harrowing circumstances on icy roads at 9 degrees Fahrenheit, starting at 5 in the morning in Calgary. I drove all the way to Seattle.
Well, you said you're an adventurer, so you said something happened yesterday you wanted to share. What happened?
Oh, just the extraordinary journey from Calgary. Calgary and the whole plains of the North American continent, what we call the Great Plains, was once underneath an ocean, as best as we can tell. And there's very strong evidence of that. How long ago now that we don't know. I mean, it could have been, even at the time of the flood, that could have been an ocean then, and it was spilled off in some cataclysm or something like that, which I suspect it's more recent that was an ocean than we think it is. But anyway, driving from there, I always like to investigate these things as I drive through these interesting territories, and driving through these mountain passes from one ecosystem, the main one on the Great Plains region of North America, over a pass through a ski resort region called Fernie, British Columbia, and then down through Idaho all the way to Spokane, Washington, and then down through central Washington, which also looks like it was under an ocean at one point, and then up and over the Snoqualmie Pass that takes you over into Seattle. That was phenomenal. I mean, I'm very much into geology.
Okay, yeah, obviously you are, and you're a traveler. You've been to Iceland, you've been to Hawaii, you've been where else you been recently?
Geez, I'm all over the world all the time, all over North America. So that includes Mexico, Canada, the United States. Was in Iceland relatively recently. Love going to the United Kingdom, Holland, Germany,
so,
all of it.
And most Americans aren't that well traveled. What have your travels taught you about ways of life that are healthier, or in ways of eating that are healthier that Americans are missing?
Well, one of the things it's taught me is I'm a real big fan of what Wim Hof is doing, the cold plunging and getting into cold and being out in the cold. We had the first freeze. I brought the first freeze to Seattle last night, and being out here in that cold and really feeling what that feels like. And using the cold as an energy of health and healing. We run so much to comfort that we've actually weakened ourselves. We've become domesticated.
Sure.
And the more you get out into cold water, cold plunges, eat your food cold and raw, and just like build that inner fire. You don't want to just jump into it too far, too fast, depending on where your starting point is. But if you feel like you got it in you, get that cold plunge happening. Get that, that we call it forest bathing, where you basically, like, I've been going hiking in the snow with no shoes on up in Canada the last couple weeks, that kind of thing. That to me is one of the best ways to heal yourself. Just opening yourself up to the elements that are already there. They're already around you. Just
get your shoes and socks off and get your feet in the dirt at a minimum.
At a minimum. Yeah. And really enjoy the environment that you're in, and find where the power spots are in your environment, and go out there barefoot and really absorb that power, absorb the energy of the earth. It's really important if you do a lot of air travel like I do, or a lot of travel in vehicles, you've got to ground.
Now, I assume earthing, they call it too, right?
Yes.
So you must be traveling around for workshops, but is there any research being done? Are you seeing things? I know you're growing cacao in Hawaii because the conditions are best. And what are you doing in these other countries? And are you learning things from there that us Americans can benefit from?
I always am investigating whatever mysteries or interesting activities are happening in the regions where I'm at in relationship to what I do, which is growing plants, herbs, herbology, herbal history, etc., and healing systems. And one of the ones that I came across, one that has really changed my life, because I really wanted to get behind it with a lot of oomph, is this whole thing on charcoal and the power of charcoal and healing. And charcoal is a transformative element. The Scandinavian civilizations, which include the Icelanders, and it was an Icelander who gave me a tip on this in a sauna, actually. They call the person who goes through a charcoal metamorphosis, meaning they start eating the charcoal, not just when they have an upset stomach, not just when they ate the wrong thing, not just when they had food poisoning, but all the time, which is what happened to me about 4.5 years ago. I started realizing, I need to be on this on the regular, because the longevity research on activated charcoal is number one, period, in all of research on animals. That's clear by far. And that's a shocking thing that everyone needs to know about, which I will be talking about at the Conscious Life Expo.
You mean they're eating the charcoal?
Yeah, meaning that animals fed activated charcoal live longer. They
Okay.
live longer than any other single substance that you can feed to any animal, meaning that activated charcoal is the longevity leader.
Fascinating.
And people
Okay.
don't know that. They're not aware of that and what that means. So that's, I mean, that's a whole, I could do a whole presentation just on that. But you asked about what I've learned from like the Scandinavians. What they've taught me is, yeah, it's great to do the hot colds. Yeah, it's wonderful to jump into ice water. Yeah, there's another transformative element in their healing system, which is charcoal. And they, again, call that person who goes through a metamorphosis from eating charcoal on the regular, they call that person a coal biter. And that's not just any old term. You may remember that C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien had a group, a club, a team in Oxford that was called the Coal Biters because they were aware of this.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, so this is ancient knowledge. I mean, I assume it goes even further back than that.
It goes, yeah, it's in the Icelandic sagas, actually. That's where so I went back to the Icelandic sagas, pulled that research out and that reference out, and then put it into a book that I'm writing on the subject of charcoal, because that's how you master any subject, is write a book on it. And I really wanted to master the subject.
Yeah, because usually we write books about things we want to know more about.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and
right.
We're past the days of, it's not a Stephen King reality where you're going to sell 10 million books on charcoal. Sorry, that didn't happen to you guys.
Sure. Exactly.
But for, the people who really want to get that information, cool. I put Frolkus's amazing research on the longevity influencing power of charcoal that he has noted over his career and on all his studies. This is remarkable research that indicates even up to 47% increase in lifespan. That's almost taking like if a human being, we're supposed to get 100 years. If everything was perfect, we get 100 years. Imagine us with no pollution, everything else. If we have a 47% increase in lifespan, that's 147 years of age just from activated charcoal, according to the animal research, which has been proven repeatedly in animal research, by the way.
Okay, so we got to start taking activated charcoal.
Yeah, just a small amount on the regular. Sea buckthorn, definitely sea buckthorn. Sea buckthorn's vitamin C superhero stuff.
Okay.
Super fun.
We were talking about how CBD no longer has the stigma attached to it that it used to. Cannabis doesn't. Psychedelics don't. Mushrooms, ayahuasca. I understand you used to grow some of those things.
Oh, I've had many years of experience. I mean, I probably started when I was 16 years old, even younger maybe, in the canyons behind my house as a kid growing up in San Diego, California. And then that kind of got away from cannabis actually over many years, and then kind of came back into it just because there's so much incredible research on cannabis against autism and cancer and all those other things. And I really wanted to know if that was really true. And I found out that it was really true. Can you still see me?
No, now
you lost me for a second. Okay. It's because someone tried to call me right now. I'll just let this expire through and then I'll be back with you here in a second, which interestingly, it's 234, which is one of my favorite numbers. Okay. Let's see. I don't know why it's doing this to me. Sorry about the blank screen.
That's all right.
It will just go away. There we go. And I'll be back. I should be back. Here we go. I'm back.
You're back.
Okay. So that was an interesting message. So it started with that. From taking ayahuasca in the jungles of Peru and getting into it from that perspective, eventually I got a very strong message from ayahuasca because I am a farmer. I mean, I'm a renegade planter, always have been since my first memories of life. So, and we have a fruit tree planting foundation. We plant anywhere from 60 to 100,000 trees a year. We planted over 1 million trees since 2002. So that's in my blood. Wow. I'm a hardcore grower and planter of plants.
You're like Johnny Appleseed for all of them.
Hardcore, yes. Yeah. We have actually planted so many fruit trees in the Hawaiian island chains that they're permanently there. No matter what cataclysm happens in the world, whatever, jackfruit will still be in Hawaii. There will still be some of these amazing Artocarpus species and that whole group.
Has the government stepped up and protected them, or?
What it is that we've gotten into places that no one can get to, and we've planted huge orchards of these trees in those places so that no matter what cataclysm occurs in the future, that's the kind of person that I am. I think about those people who were like me when I was a kid, like fruit tree horticultural, berserkers.
Yeah, let me thank you on behalf of future generations who will benefit from those. Absolutely.
Right on. Awesome. Thanks. I mean, most people don't get it, but the people who do get it really get what we're up to. Anyway, so that's in my blood. So these things like ayahuasca, one time ayahuasca was just like, you got to get into growing tobacco. Now, I had bought into all the propaganda about tobacco that we have all been fed all our lives. And
Hmm.
and I eventually got the book written by I think it was a Canadian doctor who found out that cigarettes cause cancer, but cigars do not. And he proved that conclusively in one of his books. And I started realizing that it's actually the chemicals that they've been adding to the world's most sacred plant, tobacco, that is the most unholy thing going on. It's one of the most unholy things going on in the entire world. And
Okay.
what they're doing is they're taking nicotine, which is a driver and good for you, by the way. Nicotine, niacin, nicotinamide, nicotinic acid, all very similar, pretty much identical. We now know that they are intimately involved in mitochondrial energy and in energy production. Tobacco smokers of old, you know, the old school, not smoking cigarettes, live longer. That's been proven scientifically repeatedly. And why is all that? So I got into the mystery by growing it, which has always been my first step, is like, hey, I'm not following gurus, I'm following plants.
Nice. And those are your gurus. Those are true gurus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've grown San Pedro cactus or Huachuma, you know, the sacred cacti from Peru, which you can buy in Target or Walmart. It's so funny that this psychoactive cactus is right there. I've grown those for over 20 years. Very, very interesting. I mean, I've grown them all at one point or another. And what I found from growing them is there is something to growing it. There really is. Like, I really feel like I get something, and even something of the psychoactive qualities of the substance from being around it. And the more I've grown it, the less I've consumed those things, actually, and interestingly. Because that's really true. As much as I thought that was woo-woo all the years, like, oh, come on, you have to actually adjust the plant to get the effects of it. No, I'm more tuned into the subtle energies today, and I have to agree with what my teachers taught me. They were right, I was wrong. That you get something from growing it, something important.
That makes a lot of sense. We could probably talk for an hour on that too. Are you getting the good vibes from the cacao plants? Tell me about that.
I love the cacao plants. I mean, it's crazy. I think I have I'm sure I actually have the largest variety of genetics of cacao in the Hawaiian Islands. If there's anybody who has more, it's an elderly woman down the road from me who collected cacao all over the world, kind of like I've done. And, but she's like close, and her farm's down the street, and I've gotten cacaos from her. So I have not only her stuff, but I also have my own, you know, so I've got a good variety of cacao genetics and learned so much from that and about what makes good chocolate and what the cacao tree is all about.
Well, similar to the wine tasting tours with you and your neighbor, you could just have cacao tasting tours where the shuttles take you back and forth.
I would so love to do that. And for years I wondered, this is interesting. We did some research on cacao and we found this out to be true. If there was resveratrol in cacao, which is one of the key longevity nutraceutical compounds that's found in dark wines, right?
Right.
And we found out there is resveratrol in cacao. So it has all the longevity inducing properties, protects your heart. People who eat chocolate have less heart attacks. Of course, I'm an organic chocolate farmer, actually certified biodynamic, certified organic. So I'm all about the quality. I think a lot of chocolate on the market is great, and a lot of it is less than excellent, and you've got to choose well. I
think you're getting to 147 easily.
on the prime material plane that we're on. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, this world's very interesting. We've got so much great things happening. You know, it's just overwhelming. We've got so many tragic things happening. It's overwhelming. And it's all about where you focus your attention. Then that's another big passion and love, is just directing our power through our attention and the intention to things that are nourishing for people and healing for people. And that's what it's about.
But even if you're going to eat that healthy, you still recommend detox.
Yep. So we know from the charcoal research, just that body of literature alone that has been put out in the scientific journals, that it's very interesting. What it indicates is that the primary cause of aging is a metabolic breakdown or a metabolic overload of toxins that in particular afflicts us. Usually in a human being, it's at the stage of life of a human being, it's about 60 years of age. In a mouse, which has about a 2.5-year lifespan, it's at about 2 years, where the mouse suddenly reaches a point of metabolic burden from metabolic toxins. So that means that it's not detoxifying rapidly enough to rejuvenate its tissue. And that eventually led Frolkus, in the example I gave earlier, one of the great Russian gerontologists, he started realizing this. So he started realizing, hey, maybe I'll start these mice on activated charcoal late in life and see if that works. And he found it does work. It almost works as well as if you'd started them when they were younger.
Oh, okay.
Because again, the problems accumulate later in life. I thought that was interesting research, and definitely something I felt in my own life, is that as you get older, you got to detox more.
Okay. So because our filtration system is just stronger when we're younger.
Well said. And our enzyme system. So our enzymes are like Pac-Man that clean out the filters, and our filter system is more pliable and actually can handle more toxins when we're younger. But there comes a point somewhere along in our life, in our track, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's going to be 60, or depends on the person, where you hit a problem where your body's like, hey, we can't get the stuff out enough. We got to flush the filters. We got to cleanse the body. And I usually recommend, we usually get people in for a 2-week detox, but I like to get them in, it's really a trick to get them in for 3 weeks. Because once you're 2 weeks in, I'm with you. Like because we're in like communication every day on the phone. We do this all over the world, everyone from all over the world. And so I got you at that point. People are like, okay, I'll go do another day. And I'm like, just one more day, come on. And then another day. And then it ends up being a 3-week cleanse, which is really, I think, what we need twice a year. 3-week cleanse twice a year. So that's what my research has shown.
And can you talk about what's included in that detox?
Number one thing is you got to bring your calories down. So we've got to bring our calories down, and we've got to bring the solid food eating down, get to liquid food. So we're going to move to teas and juices and all fresh and organic. And then we're going to open up the elimination channels. So sweating, bowel movements, coffee enemas. Yes, coffee enemas are part of it. And then we move them essentially, gradually as the calories come down. First week, we got them off food. So then second week's all liquid. Again, we bring the calories down all the way to the end of that week, and then we get them into a water fast. And at that point, but through the whole thing we can still do, even during the water fast, you can still do activated charcoal, which I recommend, and still do coffee enemas, which I also recommend. And then just keep that channel open so things can come out. And I can pretty much guarantee you, anybody does that 3 weeks with us, you will guarantee lose 10 pounds of stubborn weight, no question. But more likely, you might even get into radical changes like 20 pounds of stubborn weight. Which happened to me in the April cleanse that we did. Because I finally was like, I was a good friend of mine, actually, and a really wonderful guy, and a guy I love a lot. We've been besties for 20 years, is Woody Harrelson. And him and I do a lot of water fasting and cleansing together. And so that particular water fast in April that we did, that was a deep one. Sometimes you go deeper than other times. That's great to explore. Great to explore.
So 3 weeks. And after that, with the weight loss, what else are you feeling? I assume you're feeling more vitality.
Absolutely. Well, it's self-evident. That's another thing too. Is like, oh, you're a doubter? Cool. Okay. You don't think detox works? No problem. Just join the detox, and we're going to see what's going to happen to you. It usually takes about 4 days before the doubters turn into, oh my God, I can't believe what's happening. And then by the time we get them into this end of the second week, they're, because you self-convert, because you realize from your own, it's a science project you're doing on yourself. You realize, you're through your own experience.
I think you said the words "best day ever." What's that all about within the David Wolfe universe?
It's an attitude.
Yeah.
It's an attitude. The best day ever is an attitude. It's a way of life. So you get up every morning and you just go, how can I make this into the best day ever? I had a real tough call this morning with one of my business partners. Had a really rough morning, and it was so rough for him that I'm going to call him later and be like, okay, now we got to get into that mindset of converting this into the best ever, best day ever, best day ever. What has to happen now for you to take this thing that happened this morning and convert it into the best ever? It was a little bit, sometimes you don't want to come at somebody too strong with that first thing in the morning when they've dealt with something that was really difficult for them. But gradually throughout the day, as he deals with it, we're going to get him there. And that's a focus, right? It's an attitude where we could look at anything that's ever happened in our lives and be like, oh, it's the worst thing ever, woe's me, this ruined my life. Or we could say, you know what? Maybe this was the best thing ever. Maybe this is exactly what I needed. And then even though it might be painful or uncomfortable, we start to explore that.
There is a spiritual philosophy, as you know, that everything that happens is for our highest and best good, although we might not see it at that moment.
I love that philosophy. It's really well said.
Puts you in an empowering position. I heard Bashar say it. Nothing can make you more empowered than deciding that that's how life is.
It's kind of like, if we tune into our experience, this is one of the things that I've learned from personal development technology over all the years. I started when I was 14. It's one of my favorite phrases, and anybody listening right now is a gift to you. This is really a deep one. I've meditated on this for decades at this point. I think it's one of my favorite things I ever came across. This is it. any belief system that you have that does not empower you is by definition false, and it is not in alignment with truth.
I agree. Absolutely.
You just get to that and you just meditate on that. It's really powerful because you start uncoding. Like you go, oh, this belief system is causing me to have negative thinking or causing me to go down a track of toil and trouble. And you go, you know what? Just delete that belief system, get rid of that belief system, and get back on track with any belief system that disempowers you is not in alignment with truth. This is not in alignment with the great laws of nature.
And that's tough to see because a lot of belief systems are seemingly invisible to us. I mean, we just can't see them because it's like asking a fish what water is. They don't know what water is. It's everywhere. It's
so well said. That's a really good way to describe it. Our belief, we're so in them, aren't we?
Mm-hmm. That sometimes it takes life tragedies or not even that, or working at it like you're talking about, using some kind of exercise to get at it. But it's important that we're doing something, that we're diligent. And when you talk about the best day ever, that reminds me of being present plus intention. Does that sound right?
That sounds really good. I really love the whole power of intention concept. And I was a big Carlos Castaneda fan. I'm sure you were too. We look like we're in probably the same age category. And we grew up with those books and Carlos Castaneda.
And what you mean by that is we're both going to live to 147.
That's exactly right. At least.
Exactly.
At 147, we'll have a little spring water toast. This is my local spring water, by the way.
There you go.
And wow, wait till you see what I'm going to get into at Conscious Life Expo. I'm going to get into what we've been learning about water. I dug into this about 20 years ago on the Russians' research on deuterium-depleted water and what that meant and how to get it out of your body and the toxicity of deuterium versus hydrogen. I'm going to get into this at the Conscious Life Expo. This is one of the most profound discoveries of all time. So people listen, they're like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, I'll probably get, maybe if I take charcoal, I'll get an extra year. But if you just stay with it, with all the breakthroughs that are happening, as I'll lay out with, what was his name? Somalier's work from Hungary, the doctor who he did an enormous amount of water research for 20 years on his cancer patients in Hungary. I'm going to be bringing that information in. Don't ever think that there's no hope for you, because there's always hope. There's always a chance. There's always a strategy. And I'm continuously finding that out. I got to tell you, it's amazing.
Well, yeah, the things you've been talking about, there's hope for reversal. There's hope for rejuvenation in the human body.
Your body knows exactly what to do to heal yourself, as long as you know how that goes. That's another saying that comes from our genre, which is just get out of the way and let your body heal itself. And that's kind of why we do the cleansing, because a lot of times we can be eating emotionally or something, and that's not in alignment with healing. We need to get the eating turned off and lay down and rest and rejuvenate, maybe even on a power spot in a place that we really like, even in our home. And that's conducive to healing. But many times food is getting in the way, especially later in life.
So let's just say, in closing here, let's just say you're at that moment, you're at the fridge, you've taken something out of the fridge late at night, you got your arm around your or metaphorically.
I'm glad it's the fridge and not the freezer, because if it's coming out of the freezer, I'm pretty much sure I know it's going to be that Coke.
Oh, you're done. Something. Yeah. So what tips, what conversation can someone have with themselves at that level? What does David Wolfe recommend at that point? What do you do with yourself then?
Okay, what I do, and I have it right there in the fridge, right on the door on the corner, is I have my spring water right there. Because every time I'm wanting to eat something, I'm actually thirsty.
That's right. I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I haven't tested it, but I've heard. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good one to test. I know it can be hard to test.
Right.
It depends on your motivation. I mean, sometimes my body type, I have to, at this age, I have to very much watch. Like, I can't eat 3 meals a day. There's no way. I'm 50, so it's like I got to eat 1 meal a day and the rest is liquids. And so, I have to kind of watch things like opening the fridge and like, oh, what am I going to hear? So this helps a lot, because that's sitting right there in front of me. And it goes, hey, how about this first? So that's my recommendation. Generally, what I recommend is drink a liter of water, then check in with your hunger.
That's a good one to end on. David, thank you for joining me for this. It's been great. We're going to see you at Conscious Life Expo. You're going to be in the pages of Radiance Magazine in the December-January issue at radiancemagazine.org. And they can find you at?
I'm at davidwolfe.com, DAVIDWOLFE.com.
All right.
That's
This has
the
been
easiest way to
great.
track me down. Thank you so much, and great work with Radiance Magazine. Super awesome. I'll look into it. I will get to Southern California in just about a week, so I'll check out your magazine as soon as I get there.
Awesome. Thanks again, David.
Thanks so much. Cheers.
Thanks everybody for watching.